Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hello Hustle, the space where we cut through the noise, sit down with people building meaningful things, and get into the heart of what it really takes to hustle with clarity. Today, we are not talking about vanity metrics and ad hacks or viral content formulas. We are talking about something much deeper. That's clarity. Because here's the thing, most founders don't have a marketing problem, they have a clarity problem. My guest today is someone who's made it a mission to help founders zoom out and see the bigger picture before diving into tactics. Meet Pallabi Chatterjee. She is the founder of Kai Den Zen and the creator of the Kai Flow framework, a human first, deeply strategic way of helping founders and teams align their brand, messaging, and growth. She's worked across corporate giants like Cisco and founder led brands alike, always bringing in back to one thing intentional clarity. Pallavi, welcome to Hello Hustle. I'm genuinely looking forward to this one.
Thank you so much, Vikram. That was a very kind introduction. I'm very excited to be a part of this conversation with you. We have had, in bits and parts, this conversation about cutting through noise and focusing on clarity. So I'm really looking forward to having this conversation and hear more about what you have to ask me.
Great, Pallavi. Let's start. Let's start with the core idea. You say most founders are solving the wrong problem. Can you unpack what you mean when you say they don't have a marketing problem but a clarity problem?
Yeah. Uh, we need to kind of backtrack a little bit and get into the shoes of a founder and see the minute the founder has a product or even an idea on hand, the first thing they want to do is dive headfirst into execution. So, focusing on ads, content, creating funnels, even sales pipeline, all of those things, they get into that hustle mode. And this is where I see them make the biggest mistake, which is rushing headfirst towards a target, which is great in the bigger scheme of things. But when we do that without getting the clarity of why, and then
Mm,
how, and then for who, when we don't ask these foundational questions, what we head towards is a blank canvas, and then we fill as
mm,
we go. And
mm.
that is the problem that every founder keeps facing. They keep hitting these roadblocks at different turning points. So this is why I say that marketing problem is a secondary problem. Your
Mm.
preliminary problem is the clarity problem.
Very interesting. And when you're unclear inside, no marketing outside will be able to save you. So that brings to my
Absolutely.
next question. Why do you think this happens so often? Is it pressure to grow fast, chasing investor decks, or just a culture of hustle first and think later?
Well, it's all of those things and a little bit more because if we look at our current market dynamics, we are in the era of tech and AI growth and innovation, and this market itself is very, very fast. It's running, it's printing, and so it's natural for the founders and investors to say, "Hey, we need to do this yesterday." We need to, ride the wave. We need to create some momentum and all of those things, and it's very natural to think this is the wave we need to ride before we become irrelevant. But the irony over here is that you become irrelevant if either way, if you don't sit and think for a second about who am I connecting to, who is my audience, what are they asking of me. And this is not about the product at all. This is not about the service. This is about what is the core need of me solving the problem as a founder and on the receiving end of the customer, and how am I kind of translating this little conversation, this little dance between the two. So yes, we ride the wave, yes, we do that, but there is this little strategic pause that I call, in Kaidens, and I call this business therapy, and we'll talk more about this a little bit later. The strategic pause is required from every single founder, no matter what field they are in,
Mm.
to be able to then ride the wave. Because we do need to ride the wave. We are not sitting still and not creating momentum. So, uh, so ultimately the point is we are all in the same game. We just need to know
Mhm.
what our role is over here.
Interesting. So you come from both structured corporate and creative brand consulting backgrounds. In your view, what's the first signal that a founder is building their brand upside down?
Riding the trend wave, or responding to the algorithm, um, doing what everybody else is doing. Hey, let's see what our competitor is doing. This might be the framework that we need to follow because this is what the investors are responding to, and this is what the customers are responding to. Which I must add does not fail immediately, but it does
Mm,
fall flat after a while.
mm,
And we see this with every single brand where they go and plateau. Yes, sales have happened. Yes, there have been some maybe phase one, phase two of investors coming in and riding that. But at one point, it does plateau, and the reason it does this is because, again, going back to the the crux of the matter is that I'm following somebody else's formula. It might have
mm,
worked for
mm,
them, specifically that founder, that product, and that customer. But then does that fit me? Maybe broadly. Does it fit me
mm,
perfectly? No, absolutely not. So and this is more prevalent in founder-led, like initial smaller startups and smaller brands, because this is where we kind of start from the seedling all the way to growing the tree. And we are competing in the market of big trees. And their
yeah,
game is different altogether, also.
correct. So true. A lot of people, now conflate branding, marketing, and communications. Can you give us your definition of each and why that confusion is so costly?
Yeah, I get this question a lot from the founders, and they do tend to muddle all of these up. And it's rather easy. Branding is who you are as the founder, and then the extension of you as your business, which whether it's a product or a service. Marketing
Mm,
is how you attract the people who are
mm,
aligned to the service that you're giving. And
mm,
mind you, here I use the word attract, not persuade, not
mm.
lure, attract. So you need
Yeah,
to speak the language of the people that you actually want to serve. Uh,
yeah,
so that is marketing. And then communication is just the conversation between these two, and information, and sparking their attention, and sometimes just laying there, being there for them. So there's consistency. It's just the conversation like you and I are having, touching base. And then are we speaking the language that we understand between the two of us? So that is communication. And it's very easy to muddle this up if you use somebody else's trend, somebody else's framework. There's this algorithm, there's that ad. It's very easy to kind of lose sight of these things, but it's like rather simple if you put it
yeah,
in one, two, and three.
yeah. Not to use somebody else's template,
Yeah,
right? Last
exactly.
time when we spoke, you said marketing used to be rooted in psychology, and that hit me. Can you explain how that origin point got lost in today's content obsessed world?
Yeah, that's my favorite question and my favorite topic, because I have sat and gone down the rabbit hole of why we are where we are, and why are we all seem to be lost in the term marketing. And so we take a little bit of kind of take several steps back into the history of where all of this started. um,
Mm,
and in the early 1900s, with the rise of industrial revolution, where all of these mass production started, the whole point of communicating to our audience and reaching out to them was just information and saying, hey, these things never existed before and now they are here. And then the supply started increasing and the demand was just here. So then the time is to push all of these products, is sales, sales, sales. So then came persuasion. And if I have to persuade you, then I have to use psychology. I have to tell you
mm,
what you don't have, and then to tell
mm,
you, oh, hey, this is the desire you must have, this is, the identity you must have, this is what you should have to fit in to the society. We had that era. And then when we
Mm.
shifted to rather just got thrown into the digital era, where all the communication channels, blasted, and then we had more access to our customer base. As brands and marketers, we started putting more structured efforts into understanding our specific customer base, our target audience. And then we are saying, hey, how are they reacting? What is their behavior? We drew graphs and charts and all of this data, right? But what has changed, since we are still in the digital era, but what has changed in the last decade or so is that access to our customer, no matter the industry, has increased exponentially. We are now in everybody's living room, bedroom, kitchen, everywhere.
Mm.
Your customers taking their access, their communication with into their smartphone, into their toilets. So that is
Yeah.
how much access you have to the customer. But what has happened in the last decade, as I was saying, is this subtle shift is that the customer also now has access to the brands, which means
Mm.
my gap has declined and become really, really short. So now you cannot create a persona or an identity and say, "Hey, you need this," and "Hey, we are this," and it's nothing that you are. It's not unreachable. So when you have such closeness between the brand and the customer, y- now this is the opportunity to show yourself as you are as a brand. This
Mm.
is where the authenticity angle comes into the picture. And if you don't kind of understand the shift in the customer mindset, where they have become more informed, you whip out your phone in a supermarket, and then you Google, and within those 15 seconds of Googling, how are you standing out among like 500 other brands very similar to you, is how do you tap into that resonance, emotional resonance. And that's the keyword over here, emotional, because you cannot
Yeah.
play with the customers anymore. um, so that is the shift that I talk about in psychology.
Mm.
The
Mm.
marketing was always about customer relatability and understanding the human nature, but now it has trespassed a lot of barriers, and it is so close to the customer's face now that as a brand, if you don't understand this psychology of customer shift in their decision making and their mindset, if you don't ride that wave, don't understand, tap into that psychology angle, you lose out, because we have gone past the data analysis phase in using our digital models. And those are just tools for us now. So it's time to show up again in the face of the customer and say, "Hey, I'm not fooling you. This is who I am. This is what I present myself as, and you and I will have a relationship." And that's how you build that loyalty.
Pretty interesting. Uh, and I can completely relate to that. They say real marketing begins in the mind of the customer and not in the real stack. In your work, how do you help founders move from that confusion to clarity? What's the first step in the Kai flow process?
Um, so to just give you one sentence introduction of the Kai flow
Hmm.
framework, is that
Hmm.
this is the opposite of putting in effort. It's
Hmm.
going into the ease. So the thing that I was talking about, the business therapy that I call the whole Kaizen model, is that coming back to yourself as the founder and understanding that your business is an extension of you. It may not be obvious, but it is. It always is. Because the minute and so the first step of the Kai flow is understanding your core frequency. What is your value system that you're coming up in front of the audience with, in the market with, and what are you saying is the problem that you're solving, and why does it matter to you individually? And that's the first question. That has nothing to do with the business, it has nothing to do with your audience, it has everything to do with who you are as a founder. And then the next step is about being a living presence with your brand. You change As you evolve your mindset, as you evolve with your product, your service, your business, so does your audience. And then you kind of create this ecosystem of communicating with each other. Here's your problem. I'm solving it. Now you want to understand it in a different way. I am responding in a different way. It's like a response, it's a dance, it's a conversation. And then you move into visibility. How am I visible? How am I
Mm.
keeping that conversation going? And then the final step is literally just sustainability. So creating my narrative in such a way that my mission and my vision are just meeting each other every single step of the way. And these things are all completely internal. And they lie in that strategic pause that I was telling you about, when, as a founder, you have your product and your idea in your hands, and before you sprint that
Mm.
in that race, you take that strategic pause and you ask, why me? What am I
Mm.
solving? Who am I solving it for? How well do I understand that other person, the
Mm.
customer on the other side? And when you have this clarity, everything will flow. And then you don't need to borrow anybody's framework or anybody's algorithm, because you know what you're talking about. You know how to say it, and you know in what fashion you need to continue this conversation.
Agree. You talk about helping founders own their narrative. What does that look like in real life? Is it brand tone? Is it purpose? Or is it storytelling?
It's all of those things, and
Mm-hmm.
marrying all of those things together, and then saying, hey, as a founder, I know my brand or my product or my service best. So I maintain the narrative authorship or leadership
Mm.
at all times for
Mm.
my business. And then you create a voice tone, and then you create the visuals, and then you create the social media communication campaigns, all of those things. But having that authorship over, or leadership over the brand's narrative, its voice, tone, mission, and values, is the key to owning the narrative. And it little bit extends towards every single person in your team. So
Mm.
how, when you embody all of the narrative, or the true authentic narrative of your brand, then you resonate it within in the conversations with your team. They hear it, they see you embody it, you all speak the same tone, you all speak the same language. So when you go outside, when this conversation happens outside with your audience, it's literally a mirror.
Mm.
It's a beautiful resonance within, in the inside and the outside, and it works really well. But it all starts with the founder or the founders.
Interesting. Do you have a favorite example of a brand, Indian or global, that is truly owning their message from inside out?
Yeah, I have for both, and these are both my favorite brands. I'll start with talking about Notion.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know about it, and if our audience doesn't know about it, go check it out. Is the
Mm.
most flexible tool ever made in human history. But the founders of Notion, they, by the way, failed several times because they were not
Mm.
listening to their audience, but they kept
Mm.
their mission and their vision very, very simple. It's a human focused philosophy of building a minimalistic modern tool for creators, for thinkers. And it's such a simple model. They never followed any trend. There was no heavy marketing. The product
Mm.
speaks for itself. the
Mm.
the marketing, the so to speak marketing, speaks for itself. Every
Mm.
conversation that Notion does, every message is so intentional. You Google Notion, and the last Twitter message or the last Instagram post, you will see it's so simple. It is so without fluff, that the brand and its value speaks for itself. You don't need to create a framework like Notion
Mm.
did. And that is one international brand that I really like. And speaking of Indian brands, our favorite Tata. group
Yeah,
of
we
companies.
discussed this last time.
We
Yes.
discussed this.
Yeah.
It's my
Yeah.
favorite company. It's Indians trust Tata. Tata hai to trust hai, because it's not just the group of companies. Every single subsidiary of Tata has its own living, breathing presence.
Mm.
And they all have something very interestingly in common, which is that they are, uh, first of all, vision led. They're all in service. Their mission is service, servicing the
Mm.
nation, servicing the people of the nation, making the lives of the people of the nation easier. And then they are all founder vision led, which is it started with Jamsetji Tata and then Ratan Tata, and they
Mm.
never did personal branding like so many other Western brands have done.
Yeah.
Um, Bigger
Yeah, Ratan
groups.
Tata never
Uh,
did personal branding,
yeah,
but
yeah, their work speaks for themselves.
yeah.
And that is the point. Again, you don't need to. They have similar brands like Reliance,
Mm.
like Godrej, but it's different because their their vision, their values are entrenched within every segment of every single subsidiary or brand that they have. Founder led, founders' clarity, founders' vision, and their mission to serve people. And then they speak that language in their
Mm.
service, in their communication. Again, very simple, no fluff, no trending, no following trends, none of those things. And we trust them.
Yeah.
For generations, Indians have trusted them. So these are my two favorite examples.
Great. From the time you have been talking, all I'm hearing is that your audience doesn't need more content. They need more of you, and you means founder. So when founders skip this step, can you share an example where brand confusion led to mistraction or trust?
Well, you don't have to look for a specific example. It happens all the time. It happens in big brands, in small brands, wherein we have kind of there comes several points, as I said earlier. There are multiple milestone checkpoints where brands find themselves time and again where people are not seeing them or hearing them anymore, and they're kind of getting lost in the crowd. And there is crowd. Let's not forget that. There is crowd. The noise is increasing, people's memory and their attention span is decreasing, and people are now getting almost irritated by all of this constant bombardment of content, of hot takes, of narratives, of every day there's something new, there's something huge, and it's not
Mm.
actually huge. So
Mm.
concocting and performing constantly only makes you lose trust of your customer. They get bored, which is even worse because we are millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Alphas now. And when if we are bored, you have lost us. So that is happening a lot, and it's happening with all of the brands. If you see many of the brands, if you see, so the only brands that stand out, whether they're big or they're small, are the ones that have an emotional undercurrent, what I call an
Mm.
emotional spine to them,
Mm.
where they are showing up and standing on their business saying, hey, I know you. You, my
Mm.
customer, my audience, I know you because I am you. And your problem is my problem. And so
Yeah.
everything that I bring, every product, every service that I bring is with all that care and all of that attention and all of that, understanding your fears, your pain, your identity, all of those things. I understand that, and that's why I'm bringing it to you. And you think about any of the your favorite brands, and they serve one of these purposes where they understand you. You feel like they do. And every conversation that you hear from them, your social media post or their PR post or anything. Um, and I'm not dissing any of the communication means or channels. I'm saying it's great. I'm just saying whatever you speak with intention or don't at all, because you're only creating noise.
Beautiful. Now, the very important question. I should have asked this question right at the beginning, but I thought, asking at the end will make more sense. So, tell
Yeah.
us a bit about Kaida Zen. What, and more importantly, what inspired this name? Of course, we discussed this, but I want the audience also to know.
Yeah. This it started with me taking a break from my corporate journey,
Mm,
and then meeting, traveling around. And we are in this lovely time of this boom of new age startups, and people being passionate about building something. So meeting a lot of founders, and everybody is like, okay, marketing problem, don't know what to do. My investor, my investor needs my social presence, my customer. I don't know what they want to hear. Okay, let's do a what? Let's go viral. Let's do. Everybody wants to okay, create a viral video for me. And my point is, yes, we can go viral if you share something that people deeply associate and resonate with. So taking all of these kind of lessons over a period of a few months, I recognize that everybody's kind of saying the exact same thing, which is I have a marketing problem. And then I realized that as as communications, branding, and marketing people, and as PR people, it is our responsibility to come back to the reason we started doing all of this, because we understand psychology, we understand our customers, we understand the tools of how to reach our audiences. So it is also our responsibility to go back to our leaders and founders and tell them, hey, you have a huge part to play in this. And with you
mm,
comes all of the changes. With you comes the narratives. I build the bridge as a communications person, but it starts with you.
mm,
And founders want to be hands off once they've created their product, their idea, once they've convinced their investors. They want to be hands off, but they can never be, because the brand is an extension of them. So that is where Kaizen Zen came from, where I want to, as you said, I'm on the mission to tell founders that strategic pause, number one, and number two,
mm,
you can never be hands off, and not in the way of micromanaging what's happening, but in the way of bringing anybody that you interact with within the realm of your business, to tell them that, hey, I have clarity on my vision, on my mission of solving a a, a, a particular problem, and that
mm,
and that I'm passionate about it. The reason I'm
mm,
passionate about it is because I am the audience. I
mm.
embody my audience. So to be able to do that, you need to do business therapy, which is what I do with Kaizen Zen and Kaiflow. It's all
Amazing.
very simple. It's stupidly simple.
Great. Tell me, what are the 2 to 3 mindset shifts you've seen really change the way founders show up for the brand in the current times, recent?
Yeah, there is something that I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but this is something that I've been noticing a lot with early stage founders, is that they go up to a certain point and they hit a plateau. So when they do
Mm,
so, this is the checkpoint where, if you have not done the work before, where
mm,
the first pause of saying why and the foundational
mm,
questions, if you have not done that, then the second eh, level of questioning is that, who have I become ever since I started working on this brand, this product,
mm,
this service? And who
mm,
has my audience become? Because we are
mm,
in a very dynamic, changing world. Every day there's something new. Every day we have new mindset perspectives. Every day we have new problems, new challenges. So what is the shift that has happened between me and in my mindset and my audience's mindset? And how can I now pivot? Or so this is like a misalignment issue. And it has oftentimes it has very little to do with the product itself or the service itself. It has to do with what my audience now wants to hear, and how am I telling them the
mm,
other answers to their questions. So this is just the misalignment is often a conversation issue. How we
mm,
sometimes misunderstand our friends, and then we go and sit
mm,
down with them and say, hey, what can I change? So the thing that you need to change is not the friendship. You need to change your communication style. So that is the thing that I often see happening. And this is
mm,
very easy for a founder to do, is to just ask, who have I become? Who have I changed into since I started out with my business? And who has my audience changed into? Because we have both changed. Uh,
mm,
so that is number one. Number two is that the mission that I have, which is to solve a problem, is doing that work still energizing me? And this is a little
Mm,
bit deeper. We are going a little bit deeper into the therapy that I speak about, is that you you check in with yourself as to how invested you are in the mission of solving that problem. And this is not to say that you abandon ship if you find misalignment. This is to kind of go deeper and saying, okay, maybe my mission needs to evolve a little bit. Maybe it needs a little bit of readjustment. Maybe I need to kind of take a break and step back. All of those things, because misalignment only happens when there's something happening within the founder, because they're deeply involved and they also have kind of tunnel vision. So that asking that question, even though it is a little bit deep and you will think that it obviously does not have anything to do with the business, it does. So this is again this psychology angle, not just of the audience, but yourself, because you are also the human on the other side of that business,
mm, mm.
right?
Right.
And then one more question is that with my current messaging and my current narrative, is my ideal client the one client that I know that will stick with me, will always buy from me, will always be loyal to me? Is my current messaging something that resonates with that ideal client? And if it
Mm,
doesn't, what do I need to change? Do I need to change my language, my tone, my visuals, or do I need to understand deeper, my client deeper, and research them a little bit deeper? So all of these little pivots are everything to do with mindset, psychology, and very little to do with the actual product, the actual business. Because I know those things, the founders, as I said, they have tunnel vision, they have it completely in check, but there are things happening around which also needs to kind of be put into place. And then our tactics work, then our campaigns work, our communications work, our ads work, all of those things, the funnels. I am not against any of those things. I think those things are very important. I'm just saying don't sprint towards them before you do that strategic pause exercise.
great. For all those listening, if you're feeling stuck, maybe with your product, a logo, a campaign, you know, or you feel you're feeling off track, I think there needs to be a strategic pause, as Pallavi is still talking about. This last part you need to repeat and hear it. It is very, very important according to me. So clarity isn't loud, it's confident is what kind of a takeaway that I'm going out with today. Pallavi, where are you now? Which part of the world are you in right now?
I am in Manila.
Okay.
It's a great ecosystem here. So many founder led um, uh, e- exercises, ecosystems, communities, lots of digital nomads. So there's a lot of movement, a lot of exercise. Very energizing for me personally.
And if founders is to reach you, how should they?
What's that? Sorry.
If founders have to reach you to bring some clarity in their process, and how do they need to reach you?
Find me on LinkedIn, find me on Instagram, find me on kaidenzen.com. I'm always remotely working, and I'm super happy to help anyone and everyone with their clarity issue.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. Pallavi, that was such a grounded, insightful conversation. And I love how you bring both depth and calm to what is often an overwhelming subject for founders. To everyone listening, if you're building something, remember clarity isn't just a brand thing, it's a business thing and maybe even a life thing. Thank you for joining us and Hello SL. Until next time, keep it real, keep it clear, and as always, keep hustling. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pallavi.
Thank you, Vikram.